Welcome to the Productivity Podcast. Something a bit different today. We're taking the best bits of business advice we've been given over the last 2 years of the podcast and putting them together in special episodes. So this is part one of the best bits of business advice. Enjoy.
Best business advice. I think the best piece of advice I've been given over the years is you don't have to answer everything immediately.
You can be wrong at the right time and you can be right at the wrong time. Sometimes we, as leaders, we feel that when we're right, it's got to be implemented now. But I've learned one way or another that sometimes you can be right at the wrong time. And so timing is really important. There's a number of projects I've been trying to get off the ground for 4 years. And now suddenly everything's just falling into place. And it was just timing. So that's probably the best advice.
I would have to say that, and again, this applies very much in a retail context. And I found throughout my working life, I found more and more perhaps, we're all told to look at the data and so on and so forth and insights from the data. And yes, we very much need to use that, data-driven insights and so on and so forth and analytics. Yes, there's always a place for that. Ultimately, I would suggest trust your instincts. Trust your instinct because usually, on the one hand, if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And on the other hand, if it feels, yeah, this is the right thing to be doing, for whatever reason, whether it be for your business, for your customers, for the planet, perhaps, if it feels like it's the right thing, then usually it is. So trust your instinct, I would say.
The best bit of business advice I've ever been given, and I've said it numerous times on this podcast, is about the importance of empowering people closest to the problem. I would echo that, and I've echoed that and used that in every organisation I've worked.
On the back of that, treat your colleagues with respect. I think that's the way you take people on these sort of change journeys and the challenging times that we're facing. So I think absolutely links back to the way we as leaders interact with our teams.
I think the first thing that comes to my mind is from a vice president of manufacturing to whom I reported. He said to me, if I have structured your work in a way that you cannot get it complete in your daily tasks, then we need to talk about that so that I can fit the right amount of work into the time that you are here. Because if I don't, then I create an environment that you are set up to fail, and that is my fault, not yours.
It's just go for it. There's always a reason not to do something. When I look back to the day that I incorporated Ordo on Companies House here in the UK and registered it as a business, my wife was 8 weeks pregnant and we picked up a dog 14 weeks before that. Some people would say I'm absolutely mad. I would say it brought me the biggest focus of my life because, all of a sudden all that new parents and responsibility was hitting on the shoulders. And here I am, we're 22, 23 months old now. Business, the team is 15 people. Revenue should have kicked in a few months ago, didn't quite because of COVID-19, but it will be in a few months' time. We've been literally around the world, during that time. And don't get me wrong, there's been challenges, it's been stressful, there's been lots of sleepless nights, but I wouldn't change anything for it. And if Greg hadn't phoned me that day and said, I think you should go for it, and I said yes, then I guess I'd still be maybe even still working for him, wondering what if, and don't ever allow what if to stop you.
I'd say it wasn't given to me personally, but John Maxwell talks about how everything rises and falls on leadership. And so being able to pay special attention to bringing in people who have good qualities there, but also people who can cultivate other people, and then being able to build that into the Bite Ninja platform is just something that's extra special out of that, but it's definitely held true.
I would say it's move fast, change before you have to. The family business is all about tradition and doing things the way they've always been done, and that may have been fine before, but in 2021, I'm afraid that may not be able to be good enough to keep your business open. You got to adapt with technology and try to be more efficient.
Wow, that's a big question, and been given a lot because I've needed a lot of advice over the years. But I think maybe it's just sort of what's developed my mindset around this notion of relevance and resilience, and just not fearing change, right? So understanding the opportunities that those create for the right reasons. So I think, embracing change, or I guess my mantra is sort of, the only thing that's constant is change. So recognizing that and not fearing it, but seeing the opportunities that can create for your business, for yourself personally. I think it just makes everything a lot more fulfilling, but it's not easy. And especially when you have, you've had an organization, or you have an organization that's been very successful, recognizing that need to change could be pretty intimidating. But for me, I think embracing it and taking it for the opportunities it can create, I think is a big lesson.
Know your customer so obsessively that you know them better than yourself, because only when you know your customer so obsessively will you ever be able to predict their current and future needs and deliver what they expect from you as a brand.
Research. Understand who you're speaking to and be relevant. And the best bit of advice I have is never go into a meeting unless you've had a look at the news feed of that company. I remember once I went into a meeting and had my presentation, and it was based on out-of-date information that they'd been acquired by someone else. And I was curtly told, well, the guys who were in here before actually understood where we are now, that not a year and a half ago. So thank you, but no thank you, is to understand what the company is going through. That's more important than trying to peddle your greatest and best technology. That will come. We have the greatest and best technology, that I'm assured. But I think that advice really something that I've taken to my core.
The best bit of advice I was ever given was absolutely, if you're sure it's the right idea, act now, do it. The worst that can happen is it doesn't work and you try something else. But if you think you've got the right approach, act on it and then see what happens.
Oh, that's a really good question. Probably I'd say keep the faith. I think running a business, particularly a business I set up from scratch, it can be a roller coaster, and so many ups and downs, and obviously things like COVID coming from left field as well. Keep the faith, keep focused on your vision to help customers. And why you set up the business. So for me, that's helping small businesses to make and save more money using data. So yeah, keep the faith. That's probably the best advice I've had.
I would always say openness and transparency. I think too much organisations, people and staff try and do what's right for their boss rather than what's right for the organisation. I'm certainly a big believer in that sort of open culture. So openness, I think, is probably the answer to that. Never being afraid to speak up. No idea is a bad idea. I think is, and certainly in a technology organisation, that is really important.
Learn to listen better, Dulcie. That's it.
Just give it a go. Just give it a go. Just try things. Failure is great. At Finder, we have one of our many philosophies is that if it's 70% right, that's more than good enough. Don't wait for something to be 100%. Just give it a go and learn from what you experience, whether that's raising money, launching a new business, hiring a team member, launching a new product feature. Just give it a go. If it's 70% right, then that's more than good enough. But just give it a go. Life is far too short, if nothing that the past 15, 16, 17 months taught us. Just give it a go.
It's not the sexiest piece of advice, but I have to say one thing that I've learned working in startups is that cash is king. And this applies definitely to my startup, but also to any startup and any company. Managers and leaders will be concerned about cash for reasons that they have to make salary payments. They have to make sure that the business is sustainable, and I think that is a very important consideration when you are talking to other businesses. When you're negotiating or when you're trying to set up a partnership, that is going to be something that they'll always be thinking about. It's a very real consideration, no matter if you're a very small team like us of 6 or a larger multinational of 60,000. I would say remember that cash is king, and that really, really matters.
Well, I think I've been given lots along the way, and I've also through working with lots of different organisations learned a lot. But I think the one for me that's really stuck in my mind for the last couple of years is there's a guy called George Menakakis who I've met here in Canada, and he's written a few books. And the last but one book he wrote was, I think it was a great transition or something, and he wrote it about, I think, was it 3 or 4 years ago, I think, and sneaked into one of the chapters, and he sort of shrugged his shoulders when I talked to him about, said lots of other things, was this statement, and it was like a gleaming light, and it said, for those companies who keep, particularly retail, keep saying, well, what's Amazon doing? What's what Amazon doing? We need to do more of what Amazon's doing, or latterly it might even be, if you're south of the border, what Target are doing, or even what Walmart might be doing. But he said, competitors are not the enemy. The inability to create trends is. And I think that this is a really powerful, profound statement. It's almost up there with, in my mind, with some of the things that Deming came out with, in the sense of, if we can't understand our purpose and take our customers on a journey where we're actually getting ourselves into some kind of blue ocean situation, then of course we're going to be obsessed with what the competitor's doing, because we're just following, and as a result of following, we'll have lower margins, we'll be on the periphery of things, we'll have no loyalty, and in terms of forward development path, we just wait for somebody else to do something, then we'll study that, reverse engineer it, and try and do it in our store network, whatever format we're in. So I think that's a really, for anybody listening to this part of the podcast, I think I just challenge them and just say, are you setting trends in your business for your customers? Are you taking them on a journey, or are you just watching? If you're a retailer, you're just watching Amazon. What are they up to? They're doing drones, airship warehouses. Oh, better do some of that. No, stop following everybody else. Know your stuff and get in front of your customers.
I always find those questions really difficult, because there's tons of stuff that have been really useful. But for me, I think is about being yourself, about being you. I think as a leader, the more you are present, the more you are yourselves, the more impact you're going to have. So I think I certainly spent my early years trying to be someone I wasn't, and that just takes energy. Whereas when you start to be yourself and play to your strengths, and suddenly you realize actually you can't be brilliant at everything. If you outsource the stuff that you can't do to other people who are good at it, and do the stuff that you're good at. And as soon as you start playing to strengths and start being yourself, that's when it really happens. And being really clear about linking what you do to your real purpose. So I was talking about understanding who you are, why you do, and how you do it. So I think that would be the biggest learning for me.